if you remember, last week was about Hannah, and as long as she complained, she got nothing from God. But when she had an encounter with God, God changed her attitude, and then a miracle started to happen for her. So basically, we need to have the right attitude to see the hand of God move on our behalf. And I'm going to be reading from the book of Numbers. And in Numbers 16, the Israelites are complaining again. And this is what I've just told you, is when you've got that bad attitude, you're about to get nothing from God. So let's see what happened here. Numbers 16, verse 44. And Jehovah spake unto Moses, saying, get you up. Now, what does that mean, get you up? Does that mean lie down on the floor? Or no, get you up means get up. Get up and go or do something, but don't sit down or lie down. From among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. So what is God saying? Get away from this lot, because I'm going to kill them. That's what God is saying. And so what did Moses and Aaron do? And they fell upon their faces. Folks, I want you to be aware that they did the exact opposite of a direct instruction from God. I'm wanting you to understand that our attitude and the things that we do, and it can get an answer to prayer. This is really a continuation of last week. So our actions and our attitudes are important. But what a thing to do. Moses, what are you thinking? I don't know if I would have the guts to do that. If I had a clear instruction from God, if God said to me, get up and move out of the way, because I'm going to kill these people now, I think I would get up and run for my life. But Moses does the exact opposite of what God tells him. He gets down on his face and he calls on God for mercy for these people. And we continue in verse 46. And Moses said unto Aaron, take a censer. Now, a censer, we don't really use a censer in this church much, but if you go to the more traditional churches, you see they make some smoke. It's what us Pentecostals call braaivleis in die kerk, and they sway that thing and it makes a little bit of smoke. Now, that is symbolic, really, of prayer, okay? And put fire therein from off the altar, and put on incense, and go quickly unto the congregation, and make an atonement for them, for there is wrath gone out from the Lord. The plague is begun. And Aaron took as Moses spake, and ran into the midst of the assembly, and behold, the plague was begun among the people. And he put on the incense and made atonement for the people. I want you to just be so aware of that word atonement, because Jesus was our atonement. And he stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was stayed. Now they that died by the plague were 14,700, and besides them that died about the matter of Korah. Okay, that's interesting. It says some other people also died and had to do with the matter of Korah. So when it says something like that, my inquisitive mind, so what's the matter of Korah? I want to know. And then if you get to know the story of Korah at all, Korah was swallowed into the earth. So how many times have you read in the Bible of somebody being swallowed into the earth? I've never read of that before. It's only Korah that I see, Korah and his people, that this happened to. So I'm inquisitive like that. I want to go down this rabbit trail and see, where does this go to? So if you Google Korah, because Google is our best friend, it knows almost as much as my wife, there's not much information on Korah, okay? So go and Google Korah if you want to preach a sermon on Korah, and you'll see there's not much information on him. But if you are smart and you figure out that he comes from the family of Kohath, then you can find a wealth of information about him. Now you can start to dig into why did this happen the way it happened. Numbers 4 verse 4. This is the service of the sons of Kohath in the tent of meeting about the most holy thing. When the camp setteth forth, Aaron, so who is Aaron? Aaron's the high priest, okay? And his family of Korah. They're close family, like cousins. They're all priests. Just Aaron is the high priestly family, and the others are just regular priests. So Aaron shall go in, and his sons, and they shall take down the veil of the screen, and cover the ark of the testament with it, and shall put therein a covering of sealskin, and shall spread over it a cloth olive blue, and shall put in the staves thereof. So, folks, I'm just giving you a little background to the story. Who is Korah? He's family of the high priest. And what does the high priest do? When they're about to move, he goes into the tabernacle and he takes all these parts of the tabernacle that are used for worship, the table of showbread, the Ark of Covenant, the incense, all these things. He wraps it in sealskin. Now, why would you wrap it in sealskin? Maybe sealskin will keep it good and dry, don't you think? And then over that, they put this blue cloth. And they even put the staves in to carry it. You think they're getting ready to carry it now they're going to move? No. And where Aaron and his sons have made an end of covering the sanctuary and all the furniture of the sanctuary, as the camp is set forward after that, the sons of Kohath shall come in to bear it. Okay? But they shall not touch the sanctuary, lest they die. These things are the burden of the sons of Kohath in the tent of meeting. Isn't this so interesting? That Aaron's family had to go in and wrap everything tight. And you'll see I'm going to continue reading. There's even more information. And I'm skipping some of the verses as well, because there's a lot of information here of exactly how this had to happen. Because we're going to speak about this character, Korah, in a minute. But to understand who he was, you need to understand who his cousins were and how this whole thing worked. Numbers 4 verse 19. But thus do unto them, that they may live. Isn't that interesting? You have to do this whole thing, Aaron, that your cousins can live. Because if you don't do it like this, they're not going to live. And not die. When they approach unto the most holy thing, Aaron and his son shall go in, and appoint them every one to his service and to his burden. In other words, the sons of Aaron would go in, they'd wrap everything, then they'd go out and say, hey, cousin Buti, you come with me. And the other cousin will say, and you come with me. And now come and stand here and take hold of this pole here to move these implements. It was very precise how the Bible said all of this is to happen. Numbers 4 verse 20, but they shall not go in to see when the holy things are covered, lest they die. They may not even watch you cover the stuff. They may not peep in the door and see you cover it, because they'll probably die. So Aaron, you and your sons and eventually your grandsons and their sons, you come in, you cover the stuff, and then you take them one at a time, man for man, and appoint him a position to carry. So now let's just look at Korah a little bit. Korah was the firstborn in his family, and in those days, firstborn meant something. It means more than what it means today, okay? So out of the sons of Korah, he should have been the main man that Moses appointed. But you know what? Moses didn't appoint him. He was just one of the regular carriers. One of his brothers was appointed as the main man, the overseer of the carriers. So here you have Korah, who's the firstborn in his family, and he's not in charge. And then once they're all in their position to carry, then Aaron's sons would say, okay, now ready, lift, walk, off you go. And so Korah says, what made you so holy to Moses? We're all holy, aren't we? We're all sons of God, aren't we? You know, many people have actually told me, Pastor, you know, we're all the same. We're all the same. And you know, I'm humble enough to accept that I agree we are all the same. But you know what they're effectively telling me? Pastor, don't think too much of yourself, because I'm the same as you. They're actually disrespecting me when they say that. And it doesn't worry me because I know who I am in Christ, but it worries me for them when they have that attitude, that we're all the same. So let me teach you a Hebrew word today. If you look it up in the dictionary, it's H1104, and in Hebrew it's Bawlah, B-A-W-L-A-H, Bawlah. And it's a primitive root to make away with, specifically by swallowing, generally to destroy, to cover, to destroy, to devour, to eat up, be at end, spend up, or swallow down. So this is quite interesting. This word, Bawlah, is the Hebrew word that they translated for covered. The holy things must be covered. But it's an unusual word to use for covered because there's better Hebrew words for that. But in the Bible, in Numbers 4:20, they chose to use that word. These items of worship to God that comes out of the tabernacle, they must be Bawlah. They must be covered, okay? And you heard what I read about that. Specifically by swallowing. In other words, all those items were swallowed up in cloth and they were protected, okay? So Korah was jealous of Aaron. They're family. Why can Aaron and his kids, his little children that call me uncle, they can go in there and they can touch the stuff and they can see it. But me, I can only get to carry it. I want to tell you, if he just had a thought for a moment, what a privilege. Millions of other Jewish people walking through the desert never had the privilege to carry those holy items. What a privilege to carry them. But he didn't see that. What he saw is, I'm not allowed to touch it when it's uncovered. I'm not allowed to even look upon it. And this, folks, this was God's plan. This is not Moses' plan. It was instructed like this by God. So we need to understand that God can put some things in place. So Korah wanted to touch and see the holy items because they were covered. And so what happened to him? He was covered, but not with cloth. He was covered in soil. It's the only time that I know of. Tell me after the service if you know of another place where people were swallowed into the earth like that for going against God. He was covered, swallowed, just like he was not supposed to see the stuff. And he said, I'm the same as you. You holy, so I'm also holy. So I want to bring incense, and I want to go in there, and I want to let my incense go up before God. Somebody about now should be saying, but Pastor, this is Old Testament. What's the relevance of this today? Because there's no more tabernacle. There's no more priest. We're all kings and priests unto our God, aren't we? Let me tell you, human nature in those days is the same as human nature. Do you think you still get jealousy in the church today? Last week I spoke about Hannah. One of Hannah's things was she was jealous of her husband's other wife. She was jealous of the children and that she never had children. Human nature is unchanged. We still have jealousies in the church today. Pastor's got to be so careful not to prefer one above another. Otherwise, somebody's nose is going to be bent out of shape. I'm preaching to somebody today. I don't know why God gave me this sermon, but one of you that's sitting here at least, God wanted you to get this, okay? I can tell you, just last week, somebody was unhappy about the way my wife did the announcements from the previous week or whatever, and went to go and tell somebody else. She didn't do a good job. Yeah? We have these things all the time, folks. You know. But Moses was Christ-like. Moses was willing to lay down his life for his brothers. Moses was willing to disobey God. I don't know how strongly I can say this, folks. If God tells me to get out the way he wants to kill the lot of you, I'm running for my life. No, I'm going to try not to, I promise, but the temptation will be there. Run for your life, Kruyer, run. Moses interceded on behalf of them. He even stood up to God on behalf of the Israelites. He challenged God. He said, God, you can't do that because you've brought these people out of slavery. Now, what's the rest of the world going to say if you destroy them? Come on, God, don't be silly now. You can't destroy these people. These are your people. How can you destroy them? God said to him, but I'll raise up another generation from you, your children. And Moses said, no, God, it doesn't work like that. These are your people. That is making atonement for them, eh? That is powerful. That was a type of Christ. Because our human nature is not like that. Let's just be honest. Our human nature is to look after me. I'm wanting to teach you how to get answers to your prayer. That's what I'm busy with right here. It has everything to do with attitude. So, well, God's not coming through for me. He's coming through for everybody else but me. Well, maybe you need an attitude change. Maybe you need to get bold and stand up to God and even disobey God if it will help some others. But you see, our heart is so, Lord, me. And it doesn't move the heart of God. But when we will be like Moses and say, God, what about my brother or my sister? Or then, when we're not looking after me first, now you're getting into miracle alley. Something is about to happen. You see, we all have certain amount of pride and the flesh in us that God needs to deal with. And He will deal with it because He loves you. He loves me. He won't leave us as we are. The cry of my heart is, Lord, let me be holy like you are holy. And when we can get to that place, when we can become Christ-like, then we're getting ready for a miracle, we're getting ready for revival. But it's always, how can God bless me? How can God use me? That attitude of Korah, of God, why did you prefer those guys above me? We cousins, God, like God didn't know. Of course, God knew exactly who he was. And God blessed him with the privilege of carrying that stuff. But it wasn't enough for him. I think it was about 250 of them that the earth just swallowed them. So why did God not send fire? No, because the very thing that they broke was the swallowing of the covering, and so they had to be covered. If you want God to come through for you, check your attitude. I need to check my attitude when we're praying and we see nothing is happening. Check our attitudes. Hebrews 2 verse 17, wherefore in all things it behoved him to be made like unto his brethren, that he might be merciful and faithful, high priest in things pertaining to God, to make reconciliation for the sins of the people. This is speaking about Christ. And don't we want to be Christ-like? Shouldn't we be becoming more like Christ? Then this is what Christ was like, folks. He was willing to be the atonement sacrifice for you and for I. But then if we become Christ-like, are we then not also supposed to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters? Be merciful and faithful. My prayer today is, Lord Jesus, help me to be more like you. Help the Key Church to be more Christ-like. And/or Moses. Moses was a great example of laying down his life, not wanting to be first, willing to take second place, having an attitude that releases miracles in the atmosphere. I want to tell you that God is not short of miracles. God is not bankrupt. He's got plenty of miracles lined up. When we're not seeing miracles as we should, the fault is not with God, it's with His church. Our country is in a mess. It's not the ANC to blame, or the DA, or any of the other parties. It's the church. Because we've had a wrong attitude. Sometimes I might feel like calling fire on some of these politicians. Moses would have said, rather strike me with fire, but spare them, Lord, that they might be saved. We have bad attitudes, guys. Bad attitudes that God needs to change. Philippians 2:1. If there is therefore any exhortation in Christ, if any consolation of love, if any fellowship of the Spirit, if any tender mercies and compassions, make full my joy, that you be of the same mind. Be of the same mind, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind. Doing nothing through faction or through vain glory, but in lowliness of mind, each counting the other better than himself.